We'd like to welcome everybody here to our September board meeting. It is Tuesday, September 5th of 2023, and we are going to begin by first of all introducing who's here. Go ahead.
Julie Jackson.
Kim Chandler.
Connie Burgess.
Chris Wynn.
Karen Winder.
Clark Nelson.
Todd Hauber, Rich Nye.
And Nicole McDermott. All right. We'd like to recognize if we have any, do we have any PTA representatives here? Yay! Stand up and introduce yourself.
I'm Mary Rick, and I am the council president at Taylorville.
And welcome both of you. Thank you for being here. And we have GEA representative. Will you stand and introduce everyone?
So I'm Michelle Jones. This is Mary Burns, one of our board members, and Cameron,
From where? Awesome. Thanks for being here, you guys. Do we have any middle managers? These are educational support professionals. Our GESPA. Do we have GESPA? Our secretary, what are you, GAEOP? Did I say that right? Okay, sorry.
Okay, so Dana Breeze, president, and Carrie Montoya, our elementary east representative.
Yay. Hi, Carrie, sorry. She left, she moved, so it's good to see you, Carrie. Grant Education Foundation, JD is here. Is anybody else here with you?
Just me.
Okay.
You're enough from me.
You are enough, but just in case, thank you. And then, do we have any elected officials? I didn't see any. Okay. All right, we are gonna go ahead and do a Pledge of Allegiance. Rick Anthony has that.
Please repeat the pledge after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And we are going to go ahead and turn the time over to Ben for our reverence.
And I will turn the time over to Mr. Mitch Nurden to introduce the drum line for us tonight.
I'd invite the board and administration to come up.
As everyone's moving in and moving off, I'll just introduce our Skyline Drumline. Very exciting group that works diligently to represent us well, led by our own Adam Larson.
Yeah, everyone's gonna be yelling through this entire.
Can you guys hear me now? That was awesome. Do we have any parents here from our Skyline? Thank you. Thank you for being a Band-Aid, a band supporter. Thank you for bringing them. Tell them thank you so much. That's so much fun to see.
They're very excited.
That was awesome. Good. All right. We're going to move on to our recognitions. We first have our Skyline debate introduced by Ben, or?
Sorry, I still can't hear. Yes, Skyline Debate. We'd like to introduce Mr. Mitch Nurden, who's going to be recognizing our debate team.
Awesome. I am so excited to be here, to be with our drumline and also our debate. Debate is something that gets rewarded in the springtime, but schedules as they were, we're recognizing them now. Just as a side note, before I introduce the debate team, this was one of 6 state championships the Skyline was awarded last year, which made Skyline the 5A Sports and Activities School of the Year. How about that for Skyline? I'm going to turn the time over to Mr. Tim Henry to talk about debate. Mr. Henry.
Good evening. I'm Tim Henry. I'm the Skyline debate coach. I have one other member of our team who came tonight. I told the students that if they had homework that they should take that as a priority, and apparently they took that out. But here we are again, and Skyline Debate, once again for 3rd year in a row, has won the 5A state championship, and a lot of it has to do with the hard work that those students put in every year. Every tournament, they always work to try to get better, and it pays off when we compete in the spring against some of the top schools in our state. Mitch told me I should come up here and tell a funny story. You know, the hard work is part of the reason for success, and I think another reason is that we have these kind of supernatural tacos that a parent brings to us every year. So for region and state, she would always bring us these tacos from place and such, and it was something of a pick-me-up. And I swear, when I look at all of the scores, those first couple rounds, we're like, oh, we're not doing so good. And then the tacos show up. And then all of a sudden, we're just kicking it, right? And we're just destroying the field, and then by the end of it, we've won. So that is something, even though that parent is no longer, their child is no longer on the team, we are still gonna continue to make sure that the tacos are part of the culture. But really, it does come down to the students who are just outstanding and the finest young people that I've ever been able to work with in my time as an educator, which is now 16 years, okay? So, thank you for recognizing us. And while I hold the mic for just a little bit, I do want to just kind of press your ear that debate is a program that it does a lot of good for a lot of young people. And every year, there's a lot of them who qualify for nationals. And while my team is kind of benefits from this a little bit, there are a lot of schools who have students who qualify outright. They can't go because of financing. And so I implore you as the board to look at possibilities of being able to help those students, either using the resources of the school district to help them find the best deals or to help them financially, so they going to nationals isn't about whether or not they can afford it. And so that's my plea to you. So thank you very much, and I yield the mic.
Mitch, 1 minute rebuttal.
Okay. The one who was able to come tonight is Hiram Gonzalez. He was a competitor in the informative category. What was it again this year you placed at state? Fifth, but nonetheless an important part of the team. When it came down to all of our points, we won by a very narrow margin, so everybody contributed, and so Hiram is part of that contribution, so I'm happy he's here tonight. So.
Thanks for coming tonight.
Good to see you.
Thanks for coming, Mitch.
Oh, over here? Right here.
Thanks for being here, you guys. All right, we're going to move on to, I don't see any granted elected officials. So we are going to move past that. We have patron participation time. We did have one patron sign up, Monica Wilbur. And so we're going to invite her to come up at this. Did you want to still? Okay, yeah, come on. Sorry, I just want to make sure. We're going to invite her up at this time. If you'll just please state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Monica Wilbur. I'm here tonight as a former English teacher and as a lifelong reader of what I consider to be the best books, and also as a mom who has read to her children ever since they were born and even before, and I've never stopped. My oldest is 21. And the reason I'm here tonight is because I have huge, grave concerns about the early literacy programs that Granite is considering to be used. Schools across the nation are turning to artificial intelligence reading programs to teach our children how to read, and Granite is leading the charge. It's offered 4 supplemental reading choices for parents: Amira, Lexia, Waterford, and iReady. I tested all 4, and I thought my brain cells would melt all over my keyboard by the time I was done with the first. By the time I did all 4, I thought it's no wonder that schools are hiring so many mental health specialists. I'd go crazy if I had to learn to read this way. These software reading programs are an insult to the intelligence of everyone, teachers, parents, but especially the students that they are aimed at. Teachers are reduced to facilitators of the tech using turnkey curriculum like this. Literacy tech makes a mockery of everyone involved in it. Kids don't learn to love reading this way. They just learn to treat reading like a bad video game that they can't get through fast enough. Parents should be outraged that this is what passes as education and that this is what you pay more and more for every year in taxes. Schools are in the wrong if they think they can teach literacy without literature. Good literature is exactly what kids need and exactly what schools can't seem to wrap their heads around and in fact have rejected wholesale. None of Utah's English language arts Common Core standards emphasize classical literature. 0. Granite's list of approved books leaves a lot to be desired and features many trashy graphic novels and many social justice handbooks that masquerade as novels. Our kids may serendipitously here or there encounter a book of substance, but the modern lens that classic book will be taught through will deconstruct it, if not destroy it. I read an article about 5 years ago that had the title, "Schools Are No Place for a Reader." If it was true then, which it was, it is doubly true today, if these early literacy programs are any indication. Schools seem designed to make our kids functionally illiterate. Schools seem to want a child's thought and thought processes to be predictable so that our child or our children can ultimately become controllable. Good literature doesn't produce edudrones, but represents the apex of original, singular thought, which is why I'm guessing it has to be phased out. So why in the heck would our local schools make our children learn to read this way? In 2022, the Utah State Legislature passed Senator Ann Milner's bill, SB 127, Early Literacy Outcomes Improvement, which requires LEAs to adopt science of reading curriculum and intervention programs. But I noticed there was no specific mention of tech. So I do have some suggestions. But before I get to those, I would like to mention that about 4 pages into Chapter 2 of To Kill a Mockingbird, 5-year-old Scout gets chastised by her teacher for already knowing how to read and write. It's a very sadly humorous passage, but it's not far off from what our children are experiencing today, thanks to science of reading programs. If we want students who are more than functionally illiterate, they need good literature, not mind-numbing video games that masquerade as learning. Granite should pour its SB 127 money into the classics, hire some educators who are culturally literate in those, and shut down the tech that only serves to learn about how our children learn instead of teach them anything meaningful. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Monica. All right, we're going to move on to our consent items. We've had this for several days, been able to look over it and be able to ask questions. If there's any questions, we can do that right now as well, or comments. Otherwise, I will entertain a motion.
I would like to move that we approve the consent agenda minus the Cami software and Gear Up by CoolSpeak items.
Can you repeat which items? I'm sorry.
Cami software and Gear Up.
Okay,
Can I speak to that?
sure.
I think that Cami as a company does promote teaching of values in the classroom that I don't agree that should be pushed in public education setting. Gear Up is paid for through federal grant money, and I think in the absence of any larger movement to help move schools off of federal funds, that I'm left with, voting my conscience on that issue, that we shouldn't be accepting federal funds for these kinds of things that will require sacrifices for sure. But this is where I'm at on that topic.
Have you ever used Cami?
I have not used Cami, no. But
So-
again, it's the company that we're doing business with and entering the contracts with that promotes things. I've been through their website and looked at the things that they offer.
All right. Any second to the motion? All right, motion fails.
I move we can approve the consent agenda.
All right, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so consent agenda passes 5-1 with Julie out in the hall visiting. Yes, that is where she went. All right, we're going to move on to our information item from the Granite Education Foundation. JD Talbot is here to share with us some of the things that the foundation is doing. So we're going to invite him up. And Leslie is going to come too. Yes.
All right, I got to start by thanking the Granite School District. Up until 2 years ago, I had the best job in the district, and now you basically supersized me by letting me also direct the Education Foundation. So between my Family Engagement Department and the Granite Education Foundation, there's a lot of overlap there. A lot of the things that we work to try to build capacity, both on the schools level to partner with families and the families level to partner with schools, all to support kids. A lot of that we get to do and support with the work we do in the Granite Education Foundation. I want to start by acknowledging that the foundation in the last couple of years, we've made some pretty big pivots from the historical way we've served. And here's just some highlights. I hope you've had a chance to look at those. Of things that we've done, but in full transparency, we were we were a lot too far into the food business. So, and that came at the sacrifice of a lot of the other great programming that we do in the foundation. So we've tried over the last couple of years to create more balance. And when I say balanced, I don't mean 50-50 balance or even 25-25-25-25 in our newly formed pillars. But I mean making sure that food isn't the only thing we do. And so with that, we've really relied on partnerships in the community to really make sure that we're not duplicating work that's already being done by outside partners, but also maximizing partnerships and seeing if we can get partners to play some of the roles that we were trying to do and fund as a foundation. As you all know, the Granite Education Foundation is a 501c3. It's not your typical 501c3 because it's sort of this hybrid. It's a hybrid space when you start talking about education foundations. So these are the things we've done. We've decided on 4 major pillars where we do our work. So access to opportunities being our first one. We know that we can provide resources all day long, but if we don't increase opportunities for kids, it minimizes the likelihood of them changing the trajectory of their life, right? We know education's that big thing, so how are we increasing educational opportunities for students? And a lot of these things, scholarships, bus passes, getting kids on college campuses, letting them apply for colleges for free, that all goes into access to opportunities. The educator support and recognition are things that this is the area that took a pretty big hit for us as we got more and more into food. So we were down to actually just doing the Excel Awards. When I say just, that's our big lift of the year. It's a big thing to put on, but it also only recognizes 10 amazing educators, and we felt like with that this was a space we could do more in, and so we've done that through the incorporation of Thank You Thursdays and getting really focused on the Teacher Appreciation Fair and just being able to show love for our amazing educators in the district. We're not completely out of the food business. That food business is our third pillar there. And you can see we did quite a bit of food still for our high number of needs, kids with needs in the district. And then student aid is what I call our double win program, because anytime we are providing our students in need with these resources, we're also saving teachers money. We all know teachers are out there using money out of their own pocket to support the students in their class that are unable to provide the items for whatever reason. And I think when I work with my staff a lot on viewing these items as learning tools, not just school supplies, right? Like if kids don't have these tools, it inhibits their ability to learn. And we want kids to be able to present their best selves and not worry about this stuff in the classroom. So that is our student aid portion of that. So to highlight these again, and I'll talk a little bit about it later. Let me see if I can back up here. I do want to talk about this, because this is where our partnership, or what I do in the family engagement spectrum, really overlaps with what we do in the Granite Education Foundation. Is we have amazing partnerships, amazingly generous organizations that we work with here in Granite. The United Way is at the top of that list. That they're great with bringing in community partners and connecting us with folks through the Promise Partnership. For example, of things that they fund in our district are they do fund a large part of our Latinos in Action programs. They fund some of our family and community engagement department, but also our preschool. So they're really, and I'll talk a little bit more about them as we get going, but also partnerships that through our United Way partnership that get brought to the table are these after-school programs that where we promise, or like Promise South Salt Lake, that operates here in South Salt Lake, CEP for Kids that runs after-school programming in our West Valley areas. Salt Lake County Youth Services has after-school programming throughout our district, mainly in the Magna and Kearns area. And we actually still do have some YMCA after-school programming. I just put, obviously I didn't want to overload the slides with information, but I wanted to give everybody a taste of kind of some amazing partnerships that we do have. So we have partnerships in the district with dental services, so Big and Smart Smiles. We know one of the main reasons kids miss school is to get their dental needs taken care of. And they used to do this, if you remember the Sealants for Smiles program a few years ago. Now with parents' permission, they can do a lot more to support kids. So kids are taking a few minutes out of class and then being able to go back to class and learning instead of taking a whole half or full day out of school. So Big Smiles served 799 students. Smart Smiles last year served 848 students. Same thing with our Utah Partners for Health. We're able to partner with them, and they bring a vision van to the school. Last year, 515 students in our district received the eye exam and glasses for free. So, and even if a kid's lost glasses, the nurses can refer them and give that initial test. And so our nurses are great because they'll go and pre-test kids. So we're not sending kids to the van that may not need glasses. We want to maximize that because it's all free. So we want kids that are actually taking advantage of that resource that need to be able to do that. So again, a lot of this work we do in partnering with United Way comes from the family engagement side of this, all of it, but it definitely overlaps as we get in here to the foundation. So just to talk a little bit more about like access to opportunity, this was a huge thing for me as I took over to really increase that. So bus passes are a great example of bus passes allow kids at Cottonwood High School, for example, to participate in extracurricular activities because we don't have the school bus that goes that late. So then they can take public transportation and get home. It also allows kids that access to programs at Skyline High School that are traveling clear from, a couple transfers over in West Valley to get to Skyline High to go to school. We have amazing kids that are dedicated to taking advantage of opportunities. But that financially, they wouldn't be able to do that without some of these programs. So you can see we got kids on college campuses last year, and a big one that I've been working with Dr. Nye and Leslie on is a greater participation of our schools in unified sports, which is if you haven't been to unified sports, you got to go to unified sports. It's the most amazing thing in the world. So, but being able to fund that and getting more programs and opportunities for our students. By the time I'm done, I'll get these arrows down. But educator support and recognition are, again, just the things that we've talked about, the Excel Awards, the Thank You Thursday. We're also going to be reincorporating teacher grants, which kind of went away with our focus on food. So we've had a generous donor step forward, and this November we'll be able to kick off teacher grants again. So when teachers have those high-priced things in their classroom or field trips that they want to go on, they'll be able to write a grant to the foundation. We'll be able to fund some certain things, and that money looks to be ongoing for us, so we're really excited to get that going again. And then the last thing that I wanted to highlight was our social worker appreciation. The foundation doesn't function the way it does without our amazing social workers in this district. We know we don't know the kids and the families, they do, and we rely on them and what they know to be able to serve and meet the needs of our students. The food assistance, again, we chose to focus and put our full efforts knowing that we weren't meeting the need in Granite, and there was really no way to do that as a small, tiny organization like the Granite Education Foundation. We decided to focus and put all of our resources directly on students, trying to minimize the impact of hunger in the classroom. And so something that's very different. In last year, only 30 of our schools had access to the food resources that we had. This year, every single school has access to the food resources that we have. And some of them, it's just an on-call basis. Others, and we're still not meeting the need, right? The need in Granite is tremendous when you talk about food insecurity. And then we've also been able to provide one of the, what we call the snack pickup with amazing sponsors like Smith's, that are putting money, and that's, to me, yes, it's in our food program, but it goes back to that kind of that student aid mentality where when we're providing snacks, we're helping kids be able to focus learning, but we're also saving teachers money again, because teachers, that's one of the things that they spend a ton of money on. And so that's what I mean by reducing that burden on teachers. And then the last thing, we have an amazing partnership with United Way, DoorDash, and the Bishop Storehouse, where we're able to provide emergency food boxes, where obviously a family works with a social worker, we get their information, and that box with 10 meals and some food staples. And this is for dire emergencies, right? Where you've done a home visit and there's no food in the cupboards. But we're just getting the food to that family, and it's not a repeated thing, right? We're spreading that resource out, but we're giving them something, and then trying to work with the social worker to connect them to community resources, the food bank, food pantries, then the things that are already available in our communities. The student aid programming, this is that backpacks, beds, bedding, clothing, coats, hygiene supplies, Sanisacs, and school supplies. I know many of you have participated in our Sanisac program in the past. I always brag about that one because it's by far our most efficient and cheapest costing program because it's run 100% by volunteers. So it's my kind of program. So it's just the greatest group of little elves you'll ever meet. I might be frozen. I'm frozen. No, we're good. Well, so yeah, and I guess I'll wing it from here, but I'll just.
That's our last slide.
That's okay.
But there was some at the front.
just to highlight back to partnerships, and I can go and I can try to get back up to here. The other slides, and I won't spend a lot of time on this because it's the family engagement side of it, but know that the point of the family engagement department is to really try to build that partnership with families, and we're that bridge between the families and the schools. And if you get in a group of teachers and you ask them how many have been professionally trained on family partnerships, almost none of them will raise their hands. Like, we didn't take a class in that, but as we break it down, and one of the more beneficial things, especially that got brought to the forefront during COVID, was if schools that were connected to families had an easy transition. Schools that weren't connected to families, it was really hard. And during the middle of a pandemic is not the time to build those relationships, right? We talk all the time about highlighting and doing those relationships, but we think with the efforts of both the family engagement department, where we're building the capacity of educators and families to partner on the academic needs of students, and that we combine that with providing basic needs through partnerships and what the foundation does, we can really start to move kids along. So again, I'm blessed to be able to work in both of these arenas, and I'm happy to answer any questions, but I wanted to highlight the partnership angle of this, but also the pivot in our work as the foundation. I will send you all, I don't know what happened, but I will send you all a slide of ways to be involved. And I know everybody's gotten, and a couple of you were able to attend our first Thank You Thursday. It's my favorite 30 minutes of the week to just be able to highlight somebody in our building that's going above and beyond to do great work for our students. So, any questions?
I have a question and a comment. Did you do the shop-a-thon this year? Is that still a thing, or is that something that...
It's coming up.
It's coming up. Okay. I couldn't remember if it was before school or in September.
September 30th this year is the shop-a-thon.
30th, okay.
The 9/11 day of service is this Saturday.
Yep.
And so then outside of that, the things that I've put on here that I can easily send you an email for, those Thank You Thursdays. But also, if you haven't been able to ever attend the Excel bus tour, you get to see Dr. and I get a little bit wild on that school bus. So it's worth it to be able to do that.
He lets his hair down.
There you go. There you go. Just a comment, couple comments. If you've done the shop-a-thon, these are the most needy families, and they come and you can support by checking people in. You can support by, normally the big sponsor is Discover. Ooh, yes, Discover. I almost said the wrong company. That would be bad. But they usually get to do the shopping, their employees, but every once in a while an opportunity comes, and I've been able to do that. And I was able to take around these two cute little boys, brothers, and the mom insisted on coming, so that was all great. But it's just it's like a well-oiled machine. And speaking of well-oiled machines, board members, if you haven't taken the opportunity to put together Santa Sacks, highly recommend, but do not wait till November. They're done by then. This is like a September, October thing. Because one year I waited too long to help and I was really sad. But the foundation does amazing things and fills in a lot of gaps for families that are needed.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I just have a question. On your family engagement centers, can you send us a list of schools that have those?
I sure can.
Because I know some of my schools do and some don't, and I'd like a list just so I can make sure I'm supporting that way. And just thank you. Thank you for all you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did get to ride the bus for the Excel Awards, so it was fun.
And she's smiling.
And it was
Look at
fun.
that.
I'm
She's
smiling
smiling
because it was so fun. I would just encourage board members to take advantage of all the things that the GEF invites us to, because I've never come away I never have come away disappointed. It's so amazing. And they just do some really fantastic things for our students and teachers, so thank you.
Thank you.
This may be an unfair question, but as a board, is there something that you could pinpoint for us that we ought to be doing differently, that we ought to be doing better to support the foundation in your great efforts? If there was one key area that we ought to be thinking about or discussing internally that we can focus on to help you take the next level, perhaps?
I think honestly, when you all show up, it means way more to the folks in the schools than if I'm there. They have no idea who I am. They do know who you are. When you guys show up, it's a big, big deal for them. And also, I can make this plug shamelessly now. If you got friends with the resources, introduce me. It's my thing now. But really, I think Clark, to be 100% honest, that when you all show up, we get comments all the time about how big of a deal that is for folks in the schools to see you all and to feel that support.
Yeah. With the move away from, or not move away from, but the change of focus from food, can you just tell me, like, what do food pantries look like based on that change?
So the foundation itself is out of the food pantry business. We're not running like pantries like the typical pantries would look like. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Like, I didn't make that change lightheartedly. We did focus groups with social workers. We did focus group with kids and with principals, knowing that one of the things we're doing, and we wanted to be very careful of, is when we start providing pantries, other people in the community that would provide pantries don't do that anymore, right? So if you go to places like Davis County, they have the Bountiful Food Pantry. It's been a staple in their community for a really, really long time. Same thing if you go up to Cache Valley. Cache Valley, they run a community food pantry. So one of the things we wanted to make sure we were doing was not try to compete with people that are doing resources, especially when we're limited with our own resources. So that's why we chose to make the pivot and focus on making sure that there weren't hungry students in classrooms. That to me was a lot better than being able to provide a ton of resources at 7 schools to be able to provide some resources at every one of our schools. So that was the strategy of our pivot. Another thing that contributed to that is some of our community partners, back when the foundations got into the food pantry business, they were unwilling to support pantries. There are some of our schools still run pantries, but they do it entirely through a partnership with the Utah Food Bank, who delivers that food and sustains the pantry that way. And that's exactly, in my opinion, who should be doing that. Their organization is a lot bigger and they're built for food, right? When you start getting into the food business, the back end logistics add up really quickly. I wasn't equipped when I took over to understand the back end logistics of running food pantries. I got really familiar really quickly, again, in full transparency, we were operating a very unsustainable model, both financially and just we didn't have the manpower to do it at the capacity that we were.
And am I right that you guys have moved?
We will be.
You will be moving.
This was a transition year where we'll be getting out of our warehouse space and moving into Twin Peaks.
Yeah, okay.
When does that happen?
So don't visit Twin Peaks yet. It's not ready for the board's eye, but it will be. So it'll happen gradually throughout this year. Our lease ends at the other building in May. So we've got to be completely out by then. But we've already started transitioning. The great help of Don's team doing that, helping us get that building ready and being able to move into that space.
Will you let us know if you need any other help that we can come help you?
For sure.
Okay. Is there any other?
Thank you, JD, for doing what you do. It's just such a pleasure. And part of my comments tonight was the Thank You Wednesday. I mean, I just teared up. What a wonderful opportunity for that particular employee.
It was. That was great.
It was great.
And thank you for coming.
And thank you for sending a calendar invite. If you want something on my calendar, the easiest, quickest way,
I can't take credit
send
for
me a
that.
calendar invite. So whoever did that, tell them thank you, because now I just automatically have them uploaded and I don't have to go and research it. So
He's sitting to your left. It was Clark's fault.
But you did it, so thank you. Thank you for doing those. Yeah, I just want to add my thanks to everybody all the hard work. I know there's a lot that goes into this, and you guys put a lot of extra time in on Saturdays and such. I know Connie, I saw Connie signed up for Saturday, and I signed up forgetting that I have the leadership thing, so I may come and like hijack a later time once we get back.
Hey, you're welcome anytime.
I'll come with Chris. Anyway, but my kids will be there with my husband. But thank you for organizing all that and allowing us the opportunity to serve, because we love these kids and want to help them. So thank you for all you guys do. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? All right. Thanks, JD, for being here.
Awesome. Thanks all.
And Leslie for sitting there supporting him. All right. We have a plethora of first readings. And Doug is leaving. Just kidding. Doug is going to come up and we're going to go through these.
Board members. Yeah, we do have a handful of readings. We kept it on there. We should have taken it off. There's one that I'm going to request that we don't do a reading for tonight, and that is the one on the back, on the second page. And that is non-discrimination. I sent out an email last week, I believe.
We actually don't have that on our agenda.
Okay,
so
good.
was
It got
taken off.
removed. Excellent. So the other four, starting with salary levels, this is Article 9A 3D, salary levels and stipends. This policy eliminates duplication in policy for, the duplication in policies for different groups. One of the things we've been doing is in our human resources policies, we had multiple policies that applied to various groups, and where we can, we've consolidated those so that one policy will apply to all employee groups. This policy acknowledges the professional agreements with the associations. It adds clarifying language regarding placement of employees on the salary schedule, and it retains discretion of the superintendent and the board to make final determinations. This policy I present to you for a first reading. If you have any questions about it, I'd be happy to respond.
Any questions? My only question, and I think I brought this up, and I'm not sure if you were able to talk to Patrick about it, but remember it talked about all other contract employees shall be subject to professional agreement. We didn't address anything about hourly employees who are on a salary schedule. Did you talk to Patrick and how that is organized and where that needs to be addressed?
Yeah, we spoke about this. Patrick's, and I probably should have gotten back to you before tonight, but Patrick's preference, so specifically with hourly employees, there are some hourly employees that are placed on a schedule. But as far as Patrick was concerned, there's a very small number of those employees, and placing them, the schedule that he has for them, in fact, the schedule he has for all of these employees, these different employee groups, is contained in the human resources, in their own handbook. So the Human Resources Office has its handbook, and the salary schedules that that might apply to someone either moving from one position or another, or in this case, these hourly employees, are actually contained in there. And so rather than try to address those in the policy itself, he wanted to just maintain the employee handbook, or the Human Resources Handbook as a reference for that. So if you want any specifics on those steps and lanes for hourly employees, then Patrick can provide you that information.
Should that be referenced at all in here, that there is for any other questions or anything, or no? Thoughts on that?
We can, and we can reference the handbook itself if you'd like to.
Just that there is an employee human resources handbook, and for further questions, please see that, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Just because I think if somebody were to go to policy to see for that, to look at that.
Yeah.
They'd be like, this doesn't address that concern, or this doesn't address.
I think that's an excellent idea, actually. I think that will improve the policy a lot. So let me, clearly we shouldn't, if we're using that handbook as a reference, then folks ought to know what that reference is. So I think that's excellent.
Okay. That was all for me. All right, so this is a first reading. We need a motion for passing Article 9A1X.
Do we need to say anything about the change in the motion?
Yeah, that's the best thing, is to we vote on it with the caveat that we will put a reference in the handbook to the human resources.
That's the easiest one.
Excuse me, we'll put a reference in the policy to the human resources handbook.
So I move that we approve as a first reading, Article 9A3D with the aforementioned changes.
Oh, I'm on the, okay, sorry, my numbers didn't match up. Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second to approve Article 9A3D, salary level and stipends as a first reading with the aforementioned additions that will come next time. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes.
Okay, very good. Sorry, Ben's coaching me over here. I appreciate his help. The next policy actually should have been the first policy, I guess. When I sent you a new updated agenda, or at least my memo, I did change the order, it looks like. So the first policy on that is the authority, powers, rights, and responsibilities of the Board of Education. That is Article 2B. This policy change essentially reduced a full policy, which was Article 2F, that was required by statute, but only a portion of it is even relevant anymore. There was a time when the legislature required us to create a professional growth and evaluation program. We have created that professional growth and evaluation program, and to maintain that professional growth and evaluation program, there's no longer a need to maintain Policy 2F, which was essentially the process of forming that program in the district. The program is already in place, and so what we did is put language into Article 2B that maintains that program as it's currently constituted, and we also added some language regarding any updates or significant changes to that program would require consultation from the board and a professional growth and evaluation committee. So that's essentially what we had done with Article 2B. If you have any further questions, I'd be happy to respond.
Questions, concerns, comments? All right.
I move that we approve as a first reading Article 2B, authority, powers, rights, and responsibilities of the Board of Education. It's first reading.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve Article 2B, authority, powers, rights, and responsibilities of the Board of Education as a first reading. All in favor? Oh, is there any other questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes.
Excellent. The next one on the list then is prohibition of bullying, cyberbullying, hazing, and retaliation. This came about because there is a requirement in statute that that employees be allowed an opportunity to make complaints regarding instances of what is called abusive conduct towards an employee. We actually had language in our policies that provided a process for an employee to make a complaint about abusive conduct, but it wasn't entirely clear. And so what we did is we just made a modification to this policy to specifically address how a complaint is made of abusive conduct. Essentially what abusive conduct is it's self-explanatory, but it's abusive conduct of a patron or a student towards an employee. And so we've added a section that addresses that idea specifically. And based on recommendation from Kim, we also made clear that abusive conduct towards other groups, for example, will be handled in or is dealt with in other policies, including our employee code of conduct. So that's the essence of the changes to that policy. If you have any further questions, I'd be happy to respond.
Questions?
I don't have a question, but just a comment to what you said, because I do think that definition, people do notice that, and that it's good for them to hear, I guess, that it comes from state code. That's why it's there.
Right.
But appreciate putting that clarification in so that when people have that question, we can easily direct them.
Yeah, I appreciate the recommendation. Thank you.
I appreciate that you brought that up too, Kim, that we reference that this is just about employees, that there is other policy that does reference abusive conduct by district employees. So that is covered somewhere else. So I think that's important to put in there. All right, so this is a first reading. I'll entertain a motion.
I motion that we approve as a first reading Article 8B9, prohibition of bullying, cyberbullying, hazing, and retaliation.
Have a motion?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve Article 8B9, prohibition of bullying, cyberbullying, hazing, and retaliation as a first reading. Any further comment or question? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes.
Okay, excellent. The last policy then that we have to address tonight is Article 9A1X. That policy is a reduction in force, or RIF. The policy, once again, this was another one of those circumstances where we had multiple policies for different employee groups. We've combined them into one policy. We did make, I think, one good clarification with respect to a reference to the to state code, but there's really no other changes to the reduction in force policies. They were fairly redundant in our previous policy manual. So this is to consolidate and to make applicable this one policy to all employee groups. So if you have any further questions, I'd be happy to respond.
Questions, comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we support Article 9A1X, reduction in force as a first reading.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve Article 9A1X, reduction in force as a first reading. Any further comments, questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes.
Awesome. Thank you, Board.
Thanks, Doug. All right, we flew through that, you guys. This might be a record. All right, we're going to move on to superintendent report.
Thank you, Board President. I just have a few things for this evening. First of all, it's the first board meeting since school started, and I can report that we've had an exciting start to the school year. A lot of good energy and among our faculty and staff, administrators, and our students. And so really looking forward to what this year is going to bring. Had a lot of, every school had some form of welcome back activity for students, making things special. And at the beginning and the end of the day, we want to make sure that we are our parents and our community's first choice when it comes to education for their children. And so we had a terrific start to the school year. And our teachers and faculty, like I said, teachers, administrators, staff are really going all out to meet the needs of our students and working with our parents as well. So looking forward to what this year brings. A couple other things, a couple recognitions, a couple awards that we've received. And while I could turn the time over to Business Administrator Todd Hauber, I'll just make mention of if that's okay. First of all is a procurement award. So let me just read to you what this is and then let the weight of what this award means sink in. So it was addressed to Dear Mr. Todd Hauber. I am pleased to inform you that your agency's procurement department has earned the 2023 Achievement of Excellence in Procurement Award. The continuously evolving AEP criteria are designed to measure and provide benchmarks for public procurement best practices. The Granite School District is one of 194 agencies in the United States and Canada, and one of 25 school districts to receive the award. Now you think, how many districts are in Utah? 41. How many are in the country? 13,452. And we are one of 25, let alone that doesn't bring in, however many or what Canada's got going on. But to the point, that is prestigious for our procurement department. You heard from our director, Jared Gardner, tonight, and it just speaks volumes for their work in making sure that we follow all appropriate and applicable procurement laws as we work to spend and the precious taxpayer dollars that we receive, and making sure we're doing so in a responsive and legally appropriate way. The second one is is similar to that. This was from the Government Finance Officers Association. Speaking to Chris Lewis and his department, we are pleased to notify that your annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2022 qualifies for GFOAs. That's once again an acronym, but Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. When a certificate of achievement is awarded to a government, an award of financial reporting achievement is also presented to the department designated by the government as primarily responsible for having earned the certificate. And we hope, anyway, it goes on. But we hope that your example will encourage other government officials in their efforts to achieve and maintain an appropriate standard of excellence in financial reporting. So kudos to the business departments and their systems of operation to make sure, once again, that we're procuring the resources that we need to meet the needs of our students and this district are in full alignment, and that our financial reporting is transparent and open and accessible for all to understand, and presented in such a way that it receives recognition. So a couple of fantastic recognitions there. Lastly, I'd just like to draw attention that it's September, and according to, and you're like, yep, it is already. But according to House Bill 179, which amended 63G1 401, which designated September 17th as Constitution Day, House Bill 179 designated September as the month for American Founders and Constitution Month. And so we think about what the Constitution is and how our state particularly has prioritized that in our public schools. Pleased to inform the board and the public that our schools are focusing on Constitution Month and have taken it upon themselves. We've provided some resources coming out of Assistant Superintendent Anthony's curriculum department for schools to prioritize studying the Constitution. In fact, USB came out just recently and announced a Constitution Fitness Award. And this is to develop proficiency not only in Constitution for our students and the award they can, and it is optional, and several of our schools and classrooms are taking advantage of that. But to the point, it's really about ensuring, given the principles upon which the Constitution, our nation, were founded, it looks to the next and uprising generation as who would then become the keepers and indeed stewards of the Constitution for generations to come. And so as Granite School District, we're proud to recognize September as Constitution Month and look forward to the activities that will be coming in the days and weeks of this month to celebrate and create awareness of the Constitution, not only within our classrooms, but within our communities as well, as those opportunities avail themselves. So that's also an invitation as you visit schools, as our board likes to do. If you're seeing these activities, please let us know that you're seeing them, and we would and will throughout the month promote either these pictures or these stories or these activities to our general community through our website and our social media channels, celebrating what is our country and its Constitution upon which it's founded. And with that, Board President, concludes my report.
Okay. All right, we're going to start with Clark.
I have very little. I just want to say thank you, Superintendent, for your words about the Constitution and for the importance of the recognition of it in our schools during this month and throughout the entire year. That's all I have.
My next, okay. I would agree. I think that's a wonderful idea. I think that needs to be in our schools. Don't have much to report this past month. I, as a board member, made the personal choice. I don't visit intentionally schools before Labor Day. And my reason is not because I'm lazy, and it's not because I'm not excited for the school year. The reason is I just feel for our poor principals and teachers who need those first 3 weeks to kind of get the school running and up and running. And so I look forward to reporting more next month as far as my school visits go. I will say I did stop in briefly with Pioneer Elementary last spring. I started just my personal thing, birthday cake kits, finding out that some kids in our communities don't get a birthday cake because their parents don't have money for the cake. And so I went around to some school pantries last spring, and Pioneer flew through theirs, and so she contacted me. And so it's nice to be able to just be a small part of helping kids have birthdays. So if any school pantry out there needs a birthday cake kit, contact me. If anyone wants to donate, also contact me. What I do want to talk about real quick tonight is how much I appreciate teachers and other faculty who take time out of their crazy schedules, especially at the beginning of the year, to send the board emails of gratitude. There were several emails, more than usual this year, saying thanks for the extra 2 planning days. That Monday and Tuesday before school started. Several of them spoke to not only just thank you, but how they used that extra time, what they were able to accomplish using it, and that they felt more ready than ever this year. My first thought was, yay, we finally got something right. Of course, it's easy to hear positive feedback like this, but equally important to hear critical feedback. And over the past few weeks, I've heard both. And to be clear, board members have no problem hearing hard truths. We hear them all the time. I really appreciate those who are willing to share hard truths in a respectful, civil, and professional manner. How one communicates, the tone, the vocabulary used is just as important as what message is being communicated. When things are done with respect, civility, and professionalism, I'm actually going to listen, and I'm all ears. So with that concludes my board report. Thanks.
Thanks, Karen. Chris? Okay. I'll just start. Hillside Elementary invited me to their back to school night, which was the night before school started, which was so fun. So they did it in conjunction with the West Valley Night Out Against Crime type idea. And so they had police officers there and some fire department people, and it was really fun to see those kids excited to come to school, but also see some of their community support people in there that they, to see in a positive light, and they were playing games with them, and it was so fun. And so I wanted to thank the PTA. They purposely texted me and asked me to come and help serve hot dogs at it, and it was a lot of fun. So thank you, Hillside. I also went to Lake Ridge and Orchard to help in the lunchroom, which is, wow, that's a transition part of your day that's so fun. And so I loved getting to see some of these kids, little kindergartners and first graders who've never been in the lunchroom, and they're just like, what do I do and where do I go? And the staff at both of those schools were so good because they were just directing those kids and helping them learn etiquette in the lunchroom, which is a big deal, but also let them have some fun because they need a little break from school. So it was really fun to do that and be in those schools for lunchtime help. I also met with Western Hills during teachers' break time in their staff room and learned some really key important things about Western Hills Elementary. And I just want to say that the upcoming public meetings, I hope, are really well attended on September 13th. The first one's at Western Hills at 6 p.m. and the second one is at Matheson Junior at 7 p.m. So both of those meetings, the public comment time will be super important for us as board members. And I'm really looking forward to hoping that community really comes out, because it's an extremely diverse school at Western Hills, and they have some tremendous staff and parents that are working really hard at that school. So I would just encourage us all to attend that and meet some of those families. And they just gave us such a warm welcome there, and I really appreciated them willing to take time while they're eating their lunch to talk to me. So I appreciate that, and their principal helped coordinate that very well. Other than that, that's all I have for. And Saturday, I would appreciate GEF inviting us to things. And I am volunteering at 2 o'clock if anyone else wants to come. So I did sign up for 2 o'clock if some of you accidentally did morning, because we'll be at our retreat. So thank you.
Like I mentioned when JD was here, I went to Thank You Thursday at Walker Elementary, and they honored one of the lunch ladies who has been there short-staffed. Their projection, last year they had 400 children. Their projection for this year was 520. They've started with 604 students this year. And she has just, by herself or one or two other people, short-staffed, been able to prepare the lunches and and breakfast and lunch and do it. And she was so grateful for being able to be honored, and the foundation was generous in giving her some fun things. So I was just glad to be there, and it'll be fun to see the other students or the other schools have that same opportunity to honor an employee in the building. It's been mentioned, September is a busy month, and I'm looking forward to it. It's nice to know how to get everything in advance so our calendars, we can plan ahead. We have Leadership Academy, and that's one of the best academies and training for us board members, and I'm looking forward to that. I'll take you up on going to that because I signed up for early in the morning. So I'll be there Saturday afternoon. Thanks.
Well, so school is back in full swing and activities, meetings, events abound once more. I could touch on, back to school events, service projects that I contributed to put together snack kits for GEF, meetings, other things, but I wanted to touch on something very specific this month, and the superintendent, you stole my idea. I have this whole long thing written out, but I'll still go through. I was really pleased to hear that from you, and I appreciate those words. So I will just add to what you said. I feel it's of seminal importance that we ensure that our students study and learn and understand the Constitution. I have a couple of quotes that help underscore that. So John Jay, who was our first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, said that every member of the state ought diligently to read and to study the Constitution of his country and to teach the rising generation to be free. By knowing their rights, they will sooner perceive when they are violated and be the better prepared to defend and assert them. And then similarly, George Washington also stated a primary object should be the education of our youth in the science of government. In a republic, what species of knowledge can be equally important? And what duty more pressing than communicating it to those who are to be the future guardians of the liberties of the country? So, as John Jay noted, it's not enough just to read the Constitution, we must also study it. And in my opinion, we must study it according to its original intent. And this means studying the lives of the men who gave us the document, and as well as studying the meaning of the words and phrases at the time they were written. So our students are our leaders of the future. Our future state and federal legislators, teachers, lawyers, shapers of our country's future. So I am so appreciative that we take seriously this duty of properly teaching our students the original intent and meaning of the Constitution. And also their role in it, right? Because with every right comes a responsibility. I also would love to hear and see the various lessons and ideas and things that are going on, and so I tend to try to see as many of those as I can, but also encourage teachers to reach out and share what they're doing. I'd love to hear from people on that topic. And I will leave it at that. Thank you.
I've had a great time being in schools this last couple weeks. I've been spending time at recess and at lunch just hanging out and chatting with kids, and they're like so excited for school the first 2 weeks. They love school, and it's so fun and energizing. Also, I feel like we all have a great honor to be taking part in government and what goes on in democracy as elected officials. And we recently, a bunch of us were delegates to create the priorities for the Joint Legislative Committee, which comprises of the state, the superintendents around the state, the school board members around the state, and the business administrators around the state, to say what we believe are the priorities in our school districts to give to legislators. And it was a real honor to be a part of that process and to be able to debate back and forth what the priorities ought to be, and as well as how they ought to be written. And I mean, it's down to like punctuation marks that the debates go on. And let me tell you, one thing that we need to make sure our kids know is that government is, I was telling Kim this, government is not about getting things done really fast. It is not efficient. It never will be, and it wasn't meant to be that way, because it was meant to be more about discussion. And there's a lot of discussion that I've discovered as I've been an elected official. And so such an honor to be able to represent, and excited to spend the weekend with some of you at Midway as we go through training with other school board members from across the state. I just wanted to mention one other thing that I thought, since this is a report, one of the things that was mentioned in my USBA meeting that I did not forward on is, Christy Sweat is, she is a school board member in Salt Lake City School District, who is the president of the National School Board Association. And she mentioned in our USBA meeting that there is a bill on the federal level that is attempting to give significant cuts to Title I funding, and that our own Burgess Owens sits on that education committee. And so she was saying, this is a really good time to reach out to Senator Owens. Wait, would I say congressman or representative? Both. Sir Owens. And let him know what exactly that would look like in our district if those changes were to be made. And as we are a district that really, benefits a lot from Title I funding, I just wanted to urge you to think about what impact that would make and whether or not you would like to, have your voice heard. Thanks.
All right, thank you. I just reiterate the back to school activities, back to school night. I do want to say thanks to those. I know teachers are not required to be at those, so the teachers who stuck around and actually did go to those back to school nights, I just want to say thank you. That's your own time, and I want to acknowledge that, but also say thank you to those who made the time for that, because as a parent that goes into the schools, it means a lot for me to be able to see, because I don't get to go in during the day because I work, and I know we have some people here that feel that way as well. So thank you for being there and for doing that, and for our PTA and their role in orchestrating some of those back to school nights and helping get families into the schools. So I was pleased to hear from some of our administrators, some of my administrators, and appreciated that they were very proactive in inviting me to some of the community councils that have already started and things like that. So thank you. Pass that on to our administrators. We love to hear from them. Anything that's happening in buildings, I think everybody would love to hear and be able to do that. I appreciated the opportunity to sit with every employee of the Granite School District to at our employee kickoff, and kind of the energy in that room. And there were things that went amiss that were not planned, but I know the hours and hours and hours of work that went into that to plan that. And so I know Stacy did a lot of that, and your team, who else did Darla? Darla did a lot too. That's right. So thank you to those who worked so hard to put that together. We really appreciate what you guys did, and it was fun to be able to. I really liked the cheering, the being able to celebrate every network. Thank you. The words are gone. So I do also appreciate what Karen said as far as the thank yous from the teachers. We heard from a lot of teachers, and if you did not get those emails, I'm just passing this on. There were several teachers who passed on thank you for those extra 2 planning days, and how valuable and important that was to them, and how well prepared that they felt with that. So I appreciated hearing from those teachers and hearing the positive. It is always, I think that's something that I learned early in my career, that when you want something changed, it's always good. I mean, as teachers know, you sandwich, right? You have a positive and then constructive and then positive, right? So remember that as we talk to one another, the kindness really does matter, and that that we are very receptive. I think we are receptive to constructive criticism, but that we'd like to hear also what the good things that are happening too. I appreciate the counselors. I know this has been a busy time for them, probably as they have gone through class changes. And so kudos to them, the registrars and counselors in our schools, and the incredible time that they've had this at the beginning of the year. Looking forward also to Constitution Day. I had a friend who told me that she submitted her lesson plans to her administrator and was going to do kind of some talk about the election process and things like that in connection with that. And so looking forward to seeing some of those activities that are happening in our schools and want to see that. So looking forward, especially this weekend, as we go to our Leadership Academy, and we'll see most of you there. So thank you for all you guys do. Appreciate everybody's perspective here on the board. I think it's very important to have some diverse perspectives and people who have different strengths. So thank you so much. And with that, I will entertain a motion for adjourning.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.